A-OK. I'm Wandalyn Stokes, your friend and sister girl, sitting in for Dr. F. Keith Slaughter. We have with us a very special guest, Dr. Chike Akua. Tell us now, Doctor, what are the 7 steps to Black student success? What are the 7 steps, in your book to Black student success?
Sure, thank you, Wandalyn. And I neglected to give a shout out earlier to all my family at Clark Atlanta University, my dean, Fidel Turner, as well as my department chair, Dr. Barbara Hill. But when we talk about honoring our ancestral obligations, 7 steps to Black student success, we spoke earlier about identity restoration. That for us, education is identity restoration. The second step is education for liberation. So in other words, we should be educated to serve our own community and to empower our own community. It's deeply problematic if we go to school only to have to go outside of our community to find a job or some type of employment opportunities. We must be able to be educated to provide those things for ourselves. But much of what so-called schooling prepares us for is to work to make other people rich rather than to enrich our own communities.
That's so true.
So step number 2 is education for liberation, not education for servitude. Okay. Number 3, the third step is economic mobilization. Okay, economic mobilization means we must be completely retaught how to keep the money in our own communities. We know that the dollar bounces several times and changes hands several times in other communities before it leaves their community. In our community, it stays in our hand about 6 hours. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even bounce once, right? And then we wonder why things are the way that they are. And then I hear people say, "Oh man, well I went to this Black business, but their stuff costs too much." And I call that the Black tax. But guess what? You're going to pay the Black tax one way or another. You can pay it up front by supporting Black businesses who sometimes may have to charge a little more because they're just getting started. Or you can pay it on the other side with rundown communities, crime and violence. But one way or another, you're going to pay that Black tax.
Wow.
And so in that chapter on economic mobilization, we talk about the Buy Black movement. I really want to encourage people to go to buyblackmovement.com because that's where you're going to find hundreds and hundreds of products that are made by and for Black people. So that's step number 3. Step number 4 is calling and career preparation. This is so important, calling and career preparation. We have to begin very early to plant the seeds in our children of what they can and should become. One of the things that my wife and I have been very intentional on is educating our children to let them know that we're not job takers, we're job makers. We're not job takers, we're job makers. Now that doesn't mean that at some point in your life you don't get a job, but what it means is we're looking at establishing our own jobs and becoming our own bosses. So right now, as a matter of fact, my 15 and 19-year-old son are in business for themselves and they subcontract through me. My 15-year-old son is an amazing photographer and videographer.
Wow.
And so he
Awesome.
videotapes and takes pictures of me when I'm speaking, and he charges me. Yes, he does. and he sends me an invoice. You know why he sends me an invoice? Because several years ago, I taught him how to submit an invoice. But that's doing business, preparing our children to be bosses, right?
Yes.
Same thing with my other son who does audio production and IT work and so forth. And they know they can't get paid unless they submit their invoice because they're prepared for that, okay? Number 5 is spiritual transformation. We are a deeply spiritual people, but we've been taken off of our terms and we've lost sight of many of our spiritual roots because those that sought to enslave us manipulated our spirituality. So we definitely have to get back to our traditional spiritual ways. And then number 6 is relationship revolution and family restoration.
Wow.
We need a relationship revolution in many places and spaces. Black males and Black females have almost lost the ability to relate to one another. And it causes a great deal of calamity in our families and in our homes.
That's good.
And you have to understand, we've been under assault for 400 years without therapy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly.
And so it shouldn't be surprising that we're seeing the challenges that we do. And then number 7 is health and wellness restoration. We have to be very, very intentional about maintaining our health, about eating properly, making sure that we exercise, because much of the culture that we are a part of does not reinforce good, healthy ways of eating, living, and exercising.
That's exactly right. I want to go to the phone lines, but you have several products, several books, education for transformation, reading revolution, and also from the book that you just gave us, the 7 Steps to Black Student Success, Honoring Our Ancestral Obligations. How can individuals get in contact with you, follow you, go to your website? Also, you have a product on parent power.
Yes.
That's very good. How can our audience get in touch with you?
Sure. You can go to drakua.net. That's drakua.net. Again, drakua.net. All of my books and DVDs, as well as Black History and African Proverb posters, can be found there. In addition, the Buy Black Movement has all of my products. You can go to buyblackmovement.com. That's BUY, buyblackmovement.com.
Good morning, caller from Florida. Good morning.
Good morning. How you all doing this morning?
We're doing great. How about you? You have a question for our guest?
Great topic. I think one thing is that, we talk about the public education system, but I'm a teacher myself, and I teach 6th grade world history, and we start from the early civilization, Mesopotamia in Egypt, and in my school that teaches that subject, I'm the only one that teaches that Egypt was an African civilization.
Okay.
Right? But I just want to say that we as a community, we have to realize that we pay taxes. And with our taxes, we should be demanding where there is a large percentage of African American students that they are taught their history. And I don't see us doing that as a community. Right. Charter schools, great. Private schools, great. Home schools, great. But yet, we pay taxes, and we should have a voice and control over the public schools in our community.
What do you say to that, Doctor?
So to your point, brother, I really appreciate that because a big part of my research, as a matter of fact, is my doctoral dissertation, examined an African-American history law in the state of Florida that required that teachers teach the African as well as the African-American contribution to every subject across the curriculum, not just in the social studies classroom. This is a piece of legislation that was so fascinating to me that I interviewed the educators and legislators who brought it into being. One of them was Emeka Terry Thomas, who is now in Georgia and who is now trying to get similar legislation passed in Georgia, that our children should be learning the African and African American contribution to whatever subject that is being taught, whether that's math, science, language arts, social studies, and so forth. In addition, you mentioned that you're the only person on your grade level or in your school that teaches that Egypt is a part of Africa. Also, my research has shown in a review of middle school textbooks that they put Egypt in a unit with the Middle East. And so what that causes is conceptual confusion because people think that Egypt is not in Africa. Egypt has always been in Africa. It was in Africa the last 6 times that I went there, and it's still in Africa today. But there are those that have completely misrepresented it, and that's why we must control, as I said earlier, control the narrative. The teacher is the curriculum. The parent is the curriculum based on their character, consciousness, and commitment.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome, right? We appreciate you. Let's just, we appreciate you, Dr. Chike Akua. Certainly, listen, get in contact with him, follow him, buy his products, support what he's doing in the community, trying to help our students succeed. It's all about Black excellence. Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming to share. More to come. Stick around. We have the cast here from the musical play that's about to go down at the Fox Theater. Stick around. More to come. We're News and Talk 1380 WAOK.